Hello again, Leo. Dadhichi here. It's April 2018. You know, when planets transit the 10th house of the horoscope, it indicates some pretty good stuff happening in your professional life. And right now we see firstly, we've just passed the full moon late in March, last few days of March, and that has an influence on your ruler, the sun. That will later in the month move into the 10th house. But right now, Venus, the planet which rules your professional activities, has just snuck into the 10th house. So this is usually fortuitous. It brings with it a whole gamut of social activities that can meld quite well with the work that you have at hand. In any case, the strength of this planet being in its own sign in the 10th house assures you that if you are, opting to improve your professional life at the moment, this is the time to do it. There are excellent aspects on the 7th to Saturn. That's a very fortifying aspect. It makes you deliberate. It gives you the opportunity to really settle all your affairs. But there's one little stick in the mud there, and that is the retrograde Mercury, which we see in its reverse motion up until the 15th. And so what that tells us is that, yes, you've got all these opportunities, great professional energies right now, but with that retrograde Mercury, there could be some issues surrounding the financial component of any negotiation that you're in right now. And on the 15th, when it moves direct, that is the likely time that whatever formalization needs to take place can and will usually happen. The other thing is that you've got a new moon taking place there in the 9th house, which is the legal house, the spiritual house, and of course the zone of the zodiac for you that relates to your educational activities, higher education. So there's a combined influence here of, hard work, but socializing involved with an expansion of your intellectual horizons at the same time. And that is likely to take off more, I guess, at the second base, the second half of the month. So you should look forward to that. The other aspect here that I see is this very close conjunction of Mars and Saturn. Mars being your best planet, but being a little stifled by its company with Saturn in your 6th house. So I often see this where all of these opportunities are spilling over for you. The danger here is overworking yourself and pushing yourself too hard. You are very, very competitive with Mars and Saturn in the 6th house, but there's that challenge there from the retrograde Mercury and the Sun. So that can mean that the way in which you compete is more important than the fact that you're competing. In other words, being a good sport and also being very, very patient, because this combination can and usually shows a lot of frustration in that specific area of your life, which is work. So most of this reading for you, Leo, this month has to do with your forceful drive, your tenacity, your competitiveness, coupled with that sociable element of Venus in your 10th house. On the 25th, Venus, well, it does its thing very quickly here, because by the 25th it will move to your 11th house. And that's probably the time when, after Mercury goes direct, if you've been planning things and things have been held up, someone's thrown a spanner in the works, that 11th house Venus can actually give you considerable fulfillment and the money that you're looking for. I haven't talked much about relationships, but let me just give you a bit of insight there. The planet Uranus and Saturn relate to your marital affairs, and that's the problematic conjunction of Mars and Saturn in the 6th house. you may actually find that at least for the first part of the month, part of your problems relate to your partner. That frustration could be exacerbated by a non-compliant partner, nothing worse. And of course Jupiter, which is retrograde at the moment, ruling your fifth house of love affairs, also not great. But as I said, after the 25th, as soon as we see the transit of Venus into the 11th house, that will cast its glance on your fifth house of love affairs. So things should also improve at that particular point in time. The other last thing I wanted to mention was that on the 30th, we see another full moon. So you come into the month on the tail of that very powerful full moon on the 31st of March, with another full moon taking place in the sign of Scorpio in your fourth house. So right at the tail end of the month, there'll be a really big shift back to the domestic and real estate, family concerns that you may have. I hope you join me next month. You can, in the meantime, till you come back, take a look at the expanded version of this at astrology.com.au, and that will give you a bit more of a contextual view of what's happening here on a more chronological day-by-day basis. Hope that helps. See you again next month. Bye-bye.